From the Philippines, we extend our warmest greetings to all parliamentarians. Good evening here in the Asian region, and of course, good afternoon to those of the parliamentarians in Africa and in South America and in Europe. Good morning. I am Cecile Guidote Alvarez, Director of Earthsavers Dream Center, honored as UNESCO Artist for Peace. And I am your host, and together with Senator Sherwin Gatchalian, who is the chairman of the Senate Committee on Education and Culture, as well as Energy. We are celebrating International Day of Parliamentarians, proclaimed by the United Nations to highlight the efforts of parliamentarians for democratic governance. This was created particularly at this time. Its importance is crucial as we face a pandemic and as the call of the United Nations is for the vital role of parliaments around the world to help implement the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development Goals. Let us hear from the United Nations Secretary General, Antonio Guterres, so that we can have a better background on the value of this day and continuing with the initiatives of parliaments globally to realize the Sustainable Development Goals for peace, for climate action, for sustainability.
The International Day of Parliamentarism is a timely occasion to honor the pivotal role of parliaments in giving people a voice and influence to shape policy. As a former parliamentarian, I am deeply conscious of the responsibility and privilege of representing people and delivering on their aspirations. Parliaments have a special duty to advance human rights and promote sustainable development. More than ever, the COVID-19 pandemic reminds us of these vital tasks. As the world responds to the pandemic, we see the critical importance of adequate health systems, robust social safety networks, and equitable economic growth that generates decent jobs. We also see the most vulnerable in our societies, especially women, bearing the greatest burden. Inequalities, stigmas, divisions, and the fragilities of our world have multiplied before our eyes. We must act together to rebuild a more equal, resilient, and greener future for all. I urge national parliaments everywhere to play their full part in advancing sustainable, inclusive responses. This should include, in collaboration with civil society, national action plans against racial discrimination. At the same time, let's remember that no nation can succeed on its own. Let's seize every opportunity to reshape and secure our common future, take ambitious climate action, and place human rights and human dignity at the core of our work. Thank you.
Under our restored democracy, when our country, our people, peacefully cast away a dictatorship, our new constitution opted for a bicameral legislature. And we are most fortunate that the Senate, under the leadership of Senate President Vicente Soto III, as well as the House of Representatives, led by Speaker Lord Alan Velasco, are joined together here in the Philippines to provide a panorama of cooperation in responding to the pandemic, in confronting the climate challenge, as well as the need to restore peace where there are conflicted areas. And we are glad that through this global webinar, the initiative in the Philippines is linked together with that of outstanding parliamentarians as well from Africa and Latin America. June 30 in 1889 was the foundation day of the Interparliamentary Union. The day was established in 2018 through a United Nations General Assembly resolution. And we are pleased to present the special message of our Senate President, Vicente Soto III, who has also served as the Asian leader for the Interparliamentary Union and is in fact the godfather for the holding of an international SDGs Resiliart Festival Forum and workshops towards the end of the year to celebrate United Nations Human Rights Week. Senate President Soto presents the strong initiatives to respond to the stressful time of the pandemic and the action undertaken by our Senate.
The greatest responsibility to help lead our nation to safety and recovery, away from the disastrous effect of the COVID-19 pandemic. All around the world, every nation is fighting hard to keep themselves afloat and acted swiftly to address the various health and economic issues brought about by the pandemic. Global best practices have been shared and adopted from treatments, medical protocols, research, safety and isolation protocols, vaccination rollouts, and many other resources to save lives and stop the death count, which is 3,709,397 as of June 5, 2021. To our fellow parliamentarians around the world, our heartfelt felicitations to all the hard work and dedication that you are doing to address this crisis. Our role as the steady hand that provides the policy framework to support government's emergency efforts through the efficient passage of laws and ensuring the proper appropriation of funds to address the pandemic is a crucial task. In the Philippine Senate, we have adopted and modified our rules to give way to a hybrid form of session wherein legislators can either be physically or virtually present to ensure an unimpeded sessions despite lockdowns and isolations. At the height of the pandemic, we were able to timely pass laws that will address the urgent needs of the government. Bayanihan, as we call it, or United Efforts to Heal as One Act, and Bayanihan, United Efforts to Recover as One Act were passed. These laws aims to support the medical needs of the country, provide support for the health workers, give financial aid for displaced workers, provide economic stimulus packages to boost the economy, and other assistance to mitigate the impact of the pandemic. Also, we were able to conduct hearings in aid of legislation to ensure that an efficient and proper vaccine procurement and rollout plan is in place. This resulted in the passing of the COVID-19 Vaccination Program Act of 2021. As we continue to fight this battle, we are learning more and more from each other's best practices, and together we will be able to fulfill our mandates stronger than ever, despite the enormous demand brought about by COVID-19. We in the Philippine Senate would like to convey our thoughts and prayers to every parliamentarians globally We pray that you are all safe and in good health, that your nation will heal and recover fully, and that all our children will be able to live and thrive in a safe and healthy world the soonest.
Senator Soto and the Philippine Senate focused to help on the pandemic problem by responding to the government's effort for an effective rollout in the vaccination projects, even on its funding. As a matter of fact, we even have a specific committee on SDG chaired by Senator Pia Cayetano.
The vigorous response in the Senate in this time of pandemic is paralleled by the agenda of initiatives undertaken as well by the House of Representatives, led by Speaker Lord Alan Velasco.
It is my profound honor as the Speaker of the House of Representatives of the Philippines to express my solidarity with fellow parliamentarians, a special global webinar on the occasion of the United Nations International Day of Parliamentarism, and reaffirm the commitment of my country towards the actualization of the Sustainable Development Goals as envisioned by the UN General Assembly. 76 years after the end of the last World War, we find ourselves at the forefront of another worldwide threat, that of the COVID-19 pandemic. Today, as we virtually join hands as parliamentarians, we have realized that we need to get our act together, that we need peace, unity, respect for human rights, climate action, and sustainable development to arrest this persistent global threat. There is still so much work to be done by individual states and the UN working together. The attainment of the SDG goals remains the collaborative effort of all states for the benefit of all nations. It behooves the developed nations to assist the developing nations achieve their SDG goals, particularly during this time of crisis. In the Philippine House of Representatives, the two Bayanihan laws and a proposed third version are the primary legislative pandemic social response measures, which have had direct benefits for the labor and business sectors. We have also approved measures that authorize the President to suspend the hikes in premiums of Social Security in times of national emergency. We have also passed the Corporate Recovery and Tax Incentives for Enterprises Act to lower the corporate income tax of corporations, big or small. The Philippine House of Representatives also believes that vaccination holds the key for our economic recovery. Helping the national government administer an effective vaccination program, we passed the COVID-19 Vaccination Program Act to facilitate the procurement of COVID-19 vaccines, ancillary supplies, and services through a tripartite agreement with our Department of Health and the vaccine suppliers. With the proper parliamentary support, policies, programs, and with just the adequate government intervention required in a free market, I am certain that our respective countries can move towards national recovery and progress post-COVID-19. We hope that through international support, coordination, and cooperation, we could all expect a brighter and more sustainable future for the succeeding generations.
We are grateful to the House and the Senate protocol offices, especially of the Senate President and the Speaker of the House, for their cooperation through their partnership together with civil society and other government offices, such as, of course, the Manila Times. It is important that there is effective communications about the SDGs. And we are happy that the Manila Times, under the leadership of Dante Ang, is providing for us access through their Facebook live streaming at Manila Times, and have also promoted this through their Twitter and Viber Manila Times group. And of course, we also have the Presidential Communications Cultural Office through the Secretary, Martin Andanar. We have his message. Message of PCOO Secretary Jose Roberto Martin Andanar. Webinar on the International Day of Parliamentarism, 30 June 2021. To our distinguished guests, fellow parliamentarians and public servants, our partners in achieving the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals and the 2030 Agenda, a pleasant day. Good evening. As we celebrate the United Nations International Day of Parliamentarism, it's truly appropriate that we turn part of our focus to another inevitable existing threat that covers not only a single country or region, but the rest of humanity as key decision makers of our respective governments. The Philippines and the Duterte administration have always been one with the international community, with a firm and united commitment to actualize the SDGs and the emergency climate action to slow the global warming to below 1.5 degrees centigrade annually. Our complete and utmost support on the webinar in Parliamentarism reflects as well our commitment and dedication to promote the organization of the International SDGs Resilient Festival Forum workshops under UNESCO's patronage this year, 2021, in the Philippines. We actively advocate as well for the forging of a Manila Action Agenda to care for all people, communities, animals, environment, and our planet as we promote collective peace, security, and prosperity through partnerships, cooperations, and collaborations such as this medium. Along with the different Philippine government agencies, the Presidential Communications Operations Office has been resolute and determined in informing and disseminating factual and relevant information in relation to achieving our collective and global initiative for our planet Earth, while celebrating the diversity of cultures, norms, traditions, races, ethnicities, and nationalities. The PCOO is an active partner of different government departments and bureaus and non-government institutions on cultural sites and environmental rehabilitation, such as the island of Boracay in Region 1, celebration of the annual Earth Day, international partnerships for people-to-people information exchanges, and observances of other important cultural and environmental celebrations through communication campaigns and information drives. With profound actions and initiatives that have been undertaken, we in the PCOO will continue in the quest of helping save our communities, environment, and planet for generations to come. May we all continue to see and utilize for the better our significant and consequential roles and impacts of our duty and responsibility as parliamentarians to our constituents as we inspire, educate, inform, connect, exchange, and learn from each other in promoting and popularizing the United Nations SDGs on health, environment, climate change, good governance, and social justice, and human rights, among others. May this webinar serve as another step forward in actualizing the 2030 agenda for us all. Again, we wish everyone safe and pleasant day and year 2021. Martin Andanar, Secretary, PCOO, to provide a parliamentary perspective of action from different regions, such as Africa and Latin America, and here in the Asian region, in our home country, we have asked outstanding parliamentarians, women and youth, just as the IPU is seeking to underscore the importance of the input of women and the young. And so we begin with a doctor woman parliamentarian from Ghana, Dr. Agyeman Rawlings, that will speak not just about her country, but also what she recognizes as the problem in Africa.
Hello, my name is Dr. Zaneto Agyeman Rawlings. I'm a member of Parliament from the Klote-Koli constituency in Ghana. I'm a member of the Defense and Interior Committee, specifically the Deputy Ranking Member. My topic of interest today is the youth, women, and security on the continent. It cannot be said that one can be separated from the other. Our women, our youth are integral to the security of our continent. And if we are to ensure that peace and security prevail, then we must look at the things that are eating away at these particular things. The stability that we look for, the transparency and the good governance are being eaten away with the cancer of corruption. Corruption at various levels, whether within government or otherwise, at various levels, is what is our biggest issue on the continent. Whether it's during elections or whether it's in between elections, whether it's about how people are appointed or whether people are held to account for when they commit crimes. If we look at the mass migration of people out of North Africa into Europe, and you trace it back, we're looking at issues of inequity, of injustice. If we're looking at the issues of conflict across the Sahel, it's a scramble for resources. And a lot of the time, this is being fueled by people outside of the continent. Some of the weaponry that these terrorists and violent extremists have access to are not produced on the continent. So one must ask, what's the source of the weaponry that they use? We have to have honest conversations about the kind of political interference and some of the international interference that's occurring in areas that are rich in resources, fueling the conflict in order to reduce levels of transparency and accountability that governments must have with regards to how the resources of the people are actually being put to use. It seems ironic that there's an inverse relationship between the amount of resource found in a nation and the level or the standard of living of the people. It's almost as though it's become a curse to be a resource-rich country on the continent of Africa, and that needs to change. How are we orientating our youth and our women to be a power source, to make sure that they have a strong base on which to govern this country, vision on which our continent needs to move forward? Africa cannot continue to be a source of raw materials. That was what was happening pre-independence. All countries now on the continent are several years post-independence. So why does Africa continue to be a source of raw material? Why is the world not encouraging the continent to actually build on that, to add value to the products that we have in order to ensure that Africa is putting value on what she is producing and not having resources that she's selling now being sold to her at exorbitant prices? Africa should not be in debt. No country on this continent must owe money to either the World Bank or the IMF, and yet that seems to be the constant curse on the countries of this continent. We need better governance and stronger leadership. We need responsive policies that take into consideration the gender mainstreaming and youth. Our biggest resource, second to our natural resources, are our people. We have people who are adaptable, who are strong, but most of all, who are in the majority youthful, which means that they have the capacity to build on what we have. We had freedom fighters who built something for our various countries, And now we are post the colonial stage. We have to build on what was done before. And our education is key. Education of our youth must be in accordance with what the needs are on the continent. What the vision is for our continent, where we wish to go, must determine the kind of curricula that we put our children through. And education is not simply about reading and writing, it's about that expansive way of thinking, critical thinking, forward thinking, and thinking that's taking into consideration who we are, that authenticity that says that there's an African way of doing things. And within the African way of doing things, there are ethnic ways of doing things which we incorporate into what we do to bring out the best in ourselves as a continent. If this continent is to move forward, we need to empower our youth and our women. And it's not just about the rhetoric, it's about responsive policies. Gender mainstreaming must truly be responsive. It must truly cut across, whether it's in the political parties and the selection process of who gets to represent, or whether it's in the corporate world about who climbs up the ladder. All of these are important with regards to how we want to get our countries moving forward on the continent. There are so many opportunities, and it mustn't be a case of only other people coming onto the continent that succeed. We must make the resources available and opportunities there. We must build the capacity of our women and our children to ensure that they are competitive within the market, not just in Ghana, not just across the continent, but across the world. On this occasion of International Parliamentary Day, it is the hope that as we join forces, as we create a network across our various countries, we can bring to bear the knowledge that we've got, the experiences with one another, to enrich the laws and the policies in our various countries, to make sure that we leave a mark and we build on something that the rest of the generation can come and inherit and build on further. I wish you a wonderful day. Thank you so much. God bless.
What they experience in Africa, as stated by Senator Rawlings, in terms of the curse of corruption, is also what we experience here.
For the Caribbean Latin American region, we have a distinguished lawyer, woman parliamentarian from Colombia, Senator Paloma Valencia, concerned about the environment.
Hello, my name is Paloma Valencia. I'm a senator of Colombia. Greetings to you all in the International Day of the Parliamentarism. I am very honored to be part of this meeting. I want to tell you about one of my passions, the environment. Colombia is one of the most biodiverse countries in all the world. Some said is the second biggest in number of species of all our planet. Probably is due to our geographical position, which lead us to have two oceans, the Pacific and the Atlantic. We also have the Andes that give us a variety of weathers and climates. And of course, we have one fraction of the Amazon, and we have also one fraction of the Darien, one of the biggest hotspots in all our planet. Colombia has 84.1 million of hectares of rainforests. That's 72% of our territory. We have mangroves, we have dry forests, we have wetlands, and many, many other strategic ecosystems. I am convinced that one of the most important duties of our generation, Colombians, is to protect and save the Amazon. The ecosystem is capable of absorbing 200,000 millions of tons of carbon. It has 1/3 of the Earth biodiversity. Colombia has a small fraction, only 6.4 of all the Amazon. However, it is big for our country because it represents 41% of our territory. In the Amazon, Colombia has 185 indigenous reservations. Saving the Amazon is an imperative if we think about the future generations of Colombia, but also because we are changing. We are changing in the way that we feel that we should share our country, our world, our planet with all the other species that live in it. The ethical question of sharing this planet with other species is opening new doors to rethink the way we can coexist in this beautiful land. It is a fundamental change in the way the world has been conceived, but in many senses, we thought that humans could do whatever they want with this planet. But now we think about all the other species and we feel that they have the right to be here, to share with us this beautiful planet. We should limit all our harmful behaviors so we can show respect for the rest of the species that co-live in this planet. That's the case of the fight against global warming, which has been acknowledged and defined many years ago, and however, yet the results are lower than our expectations. Almost 1 million of inhabitants live in the Colombian Amazon, and they live in very poor conditions. If you see the multidimensional indicator of poverty, the Amazon region has 10 points over the average of the country. Of course, you may ask, how can you live in this richness of an ecosystem and be so poor? The easy answer to this question is the lack of projects, the lack of access, the lack of everything that you need to evolve and develop. It's clear that the conservation of the Amazon needs a different perspective. And I have been working on an idea that I think that could be very useful. If we use the royalties of mining and oil to pay the people in the forest to take care of it, to live with it, to preserve it, we could have a good deal. Because you will have the extraction paying for the conservation. I managed that some laws in Colombia allowed a very, very small part of the royalties of oil to go to preserve strategic ecosystems. I think that's a very enlightening way in which we can protect the Amazon and save it. But on the other hand, I think that the whole country, especially the cities, should pay to the Amazon so you can provide the well-being for the people and at the same time preserve a pristine rainforest as the Amazon. That's the way in which we could manage to have a world where the people can live and all the other species can live. We can pay to save them. Thank you so much for this invitation. I'm very glad to talk to you and to have this opportunity to say greetings to you all, parliamentarians of the world.
The United Nations call to action to fight or combat climate change is essentially like protecting the Amazon, for what is needed is collective action to prevent so much loss of lives and livelihood.
In Asia, there is a growing interest in creative industries to respond to this economic downturn due to the lockdown. And we have a very young congressman who is the deputy majority leader in Congress in the Philippines, Congressman Christopher De Venecia, who pursues and promotes creative industries as his very concerned focus in the House.
Greetings to all our delegates. Our country is committed to becoming the top creative economy in all of ASEAN by 2030. It is my firm belief that not only is this possible, but it also ties into the Sustainable Development Goals that were set forth by the United Nations, which are also to be attained by 2030. This creative agenda is primarily an economic agenda, so it addresses SDGs 1, 2, 8, and 9. Based on multiple studies, the creative industries have historically contributed around 7% to the Philippines' GDP, even with little government support. Creative industries have also contributed to the reduction of poverty in some Philippine localities, like in Samar, where a 20% drop in poverty incidence was recorded, largely in part to the flourishing local creative economy. Creative industries also increase well-being among the people, helping push towards goals 3, 4, and 5. We imagine a future where we give more emphasis to arts in our educational system, training well-rounded learners who not only will be skilled, but also empathetic to culture and history. Through creativity, we can also build well-designed cities and creative hubs, and this helps in our progress towards SDG number 11. We also believe that a creative future is a sustainable one. Be it in how we dress, what we eat, and the places we build, inputs must be sourced in the most sustainable way. The 21st century consumer is one who is conscious and conscientious about the things that he or she procures, and the modern creative must respond to these needs and preferences. Creatives can contribute towards SDG number 12 too. In line with the 2030 Agenda and the SDGs, we must integrate the creative industries in our national plans, strategies, and budgets. We must protect the intellectual property rights of our creatives. They should be entitled to fair remuneration. Higher education must be geared towards attracting, developing, and encouraging creative talent. Finally, generating data should be a priority to support such policies. I believe this nation has a creative future, and I am one with advocacy to push this sector further towards achieving sustainable development for all. After all, the future is creative.
I join Congressman Roman Romulo, my counterpart in the House Committee on Basic Education, Arts and Culture, with Congressman Christopher De Venecia on his creative industries to pass a law on.
The organizing committee for this global webinar to celebrate the International Parliamentarism Day declared by the United Nations is composed of the Philippine Center of the International Theatre Institute and, of course, the Social Change Network of the ITI, led from the Philippines, with the South-South Cooperation Council that is linked with the Colombian ITI Center. We shall hear from Victor Siebeck, our colleague.
I'm very pleased to be associated with this important program on the International Day of Parliamentarians as chairman of South-South Cooperation Council, but also vice president of the Social Change Network of ITI and co-president of the Colombian Center of ITI. As the Secretary General of the UN has said, it is so important to listen to parliamentarians because they are, after all, voice of the people. And I'm very pleased to have been able to put together an important parliamentarian from Ghana, who very eloquently told us about the extraordinary challenges that African continent faces at the moment relating to sustainable development goals. And also where the senator from Colombia told us about the challenges facing the Amazon, the lungs of the planet. This is particularly important because this exercise is geared towards preparation of a very important festival and forum, which our hostess, Cecile Guidote Alvarez, is organizing in the Senate of the Philippines towards the end of the year, in which we will popularize the Sustainable Development Goals, which of course are the absolute principal column of the United Nations system. So we very much hope that this particular webinar will contribute as an important preparatory step towards the Manila Festival and Forum.
We wish to thank all of our panelists and especially, of course, our leadership in our bicameral legislature, Senate President Vicente Soto III and House Speaker Lord Alan Velasco, so that we can contribute to profiling the resolution adopted by the General Assembly for interaction between the United Nations, national parliaments, and the International Parliamentary Union, which is auspiciously headed as well by another outstanding Portuguese parliamentarian, Duarte Pacheco of Portugal. And we would also like to conclude, as you have heard, that there is as well as stress the importance of the cultural dimension in executing the Sustainable Development Goals, we would like to end with a special song of unity, as both the Senate President and the House Speaker has stressed the necessity of unity, the collective action that is called for by the Secretary General, and the need for everybody's collaboration, sense of kinship and solidarity, so that we can win this war against the COVID pandemic that is aggravated by climate catastrophes, armed conflict, and economic depression. We can overcome through unity, and we would like to share a special song, Magkaisa, Join Hands, Be Together. It's a special song composed by our Senate President. We call him Tito Soto as an artist-composer, and sung by a young singer at that time, when we showed to the world that together in unity we can overcome any difficulties. We can promote democratic governance as we restored our democracy in the Philippines. Magkaisa, togetherness, unity, collective action. And this is also a salute to all parliamentarians. Our own president of the International Theatre Institute Philippine Center was a former parliamentarian, Joey Lina, as well as the Earthsavers, which was founded by another parliamentarian environmentalist, the late Senator Gerson Alvarez. To all parliamentarians who have served, who even now currently are serving, and those who will serve still in the future, so that the voice of the people is always represented, and the betterment of the condition and caring of mankind, our planet, promoting peace, prosperity through partnerships can occur. Magkaisa by Tito Soto, sung by Verna Lisi, a song for unity. And we can overcome.
Una
We would like also to express our deep appreciation and esteem to all of our partners, the Earthsavers Dream Center, UNESCO Artists for Peace, enjoys the patronage of UNESCO for the holding of the International SDGs Resiliart Festival Forum and workshops to be held this year. And what is important is also to thank the leadership of the Congress, particularly the Senate President Tito Soto, for the support for our event, this important honor to promote health and well-being, peace and climate justice through the actualization of the Sustainable Development Goals. We would like to thank our partners, besides, of course, the Senate, the City of Manila, under the leadership of Mayor Isko Moreno, as well as NCCA, which is chaired by Nick Lisaso, and all of our other, partners, like the Social Change or Network of the ITI, and the ITI is headed by the Director General Tobias Bianconi. We also like to thank the South-South Cooperation Council, which is part of our ITI Social Change Network and co-president of the ITI Colombian Center. We would like to thank everyone in our creative team that has made this possible so that we can contribute, salute, and encourage the action, the collective action of parliaments throughout the world for democratic governance. We'd like to thank our co-host, Senator Sherwin Gatchalian, who chairs the Committee on Education, Culture, and Energy in the Senate, as joining us to promote our webinars here in the Philippines, but links up with our partners throughout the world, our special guests, parliamentarians from Ghana and Colombia. Thank you. This has been your host, Cecile Guidote Alvarez, in the name of the Philippine ITI Center and the Earthsavers. We'd like to really extend our appreciation to all of you all over the world, listening, watching on Facebook, especially through the partnership of Manila Times in their various media platforms, streaming us live at their Facebook, Manila Times Online. Of course, we'd like to thank as well our partners in bringing to you Monday to Friday, late in the evening, drama, music, poetry, cultural, social news, and on Sundays at 6 o'clock in the evening, our dialogue and storytelling on political, social, and cultural educational issues. This is what we call our creative classroom on the air, and we thank Mapicon Herbal-Based Insecticide, Tesoros, House of Native Arts and Crafts, as well as Cazuela Spanish Colonial Cuisine Restaurant in UP Teachers Village, Quezon City, for Maginhawa Street. And we would also encourage you to contact info@abacussolutions.ph for your social media needs. And we thank our technical production team, headed by Salvador Bong Moyar, Executive Assistant Susan Claudio, Hexalon Alvarez, Earthsavers National Youth Director, and our technical team, editing team, Dalton Lambrano from Colombia, Rachel Padua from Pixel Arts Media, Reinvigorated. And we'd like again to thank the staff of Senator President Tito Soto and House Speaker Lord Alan Velasco for this particular global webinar emanating from the Philippines. Saludos to all parliamentarians. May God bless us all. Keep safe and mabuhay.